Another day, another Volpez TF video combating misinformation, I guess, because I guess that's where we are. So today the subject is Duet Night Abyss's story reviews. Look, I got to talk about why this is important as well first. On top of everything else I've talked about with like the gacha monetization, the goals to, with Duet Night Abyss to get rid of gacha monetization for characters and such, it's offensive to see these like 60-second long segments just vaguely throwing some things out there about the negatives of the story and then just broadly declaring that the story is like terrible. Remember again, the thesis of this video, look at the title's there. The thesis of this video is that the game will fail. So remember to keep that in the back of your mind as we watch these clips. All right, let's...
And then there's the dialogue. It is so alien. Every character over-explains every single detail and interaction in their life. Why do these anime games need to treat us like we're lobotomized? Do you think we need to be babied over every single detail? Surely the writers of these games don't think that this type of yapping is better than actual storytelling where there's subtle character interactions in every single scene, do they?
Again, this is why misinformation is so tough, because this is like a 10-second claim and it's going to take me like 15 minutes to talk through this with y'all, but let's just take this line by line, okay? So this point here that the dialogue is babying us like we're lobotomized, the yap fest, this kind of feedback, right? Let's just look at this scene that he uses as an example in the background, because this is his supporting evidence for this claim, right? So this scene that he's actually using in the background here is actually a well-written, with subtle characterization scene. So let's just look at this, right? So this first line, she's saying basically, I can feel it, even though you're trying to put on a smile, you're not happy. What does this tell us about Psyche as a character, okay? Remember that Psyche is growing up in an orphanage. She's like the big sis character of this orphanage, right? What she's kind of saying is how high EQ, emotionally well-adjusted people talk to each other, right? It's not just, I don't know what we expect for like realistic dialogue. Are we just saying like, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. That's cool. Good. Okay. She's doing the high EQ thing of picking up on someone's emotions and then actually having the courage to mention to them, like, I know it seems like you're trying to put on a strong front, but I feel like there is something bothering you, right? Again, that characterizes her as like the big sis of the orphanage. You can imagine in the orphanage that they're growing up, it is also very like dire conditions and very depressing in this world for these specific people in this orphanage, these kids in this orphanage. As the big sis character, you can imagine that she's had a ton of practice and she's very in tune with people's emotions, right? She's able to pick up on when people are like starting to bottle things up, when things are starting to get to somebody, and she's has the courage to go out there and to let them know, you have a shoulder to lean on in me, I'm here to support you, or just understanding that it's not good to keep those things bottled up, right? So this is actually subtle characterization of Psyche as a character in one line, okay? Let's look at the next line. And then I had to look it up because I'm imagining doing, I guess, the bare minimum amount of due diligence. But anyway, so what she's saying is, I'm a bit curious about what you've been through, but Mr. Hunter told me not to pry into our guest pass. To me, this is like a again, high EQ, and I'm not even trying to say I'm like a high EQ person or whatever, but this is something that I think an emotionally well-adjusted person would say. It's a subtle way of indicating that you are concerned about them, right? It's also a subtle way of kind of validating their struggle. If you think about the MC, they've just lost their sister. They've been dropped into a new city, completely basically alone, don't know anybody. They're, broke, homeless, they're friendless, they're maidenless, and it's like probably pretty tough if you think about it. And if you think about it, Psyche has probably experienced something similar like to this a lot actually before. This is another way of like subtly characterizing her, because you can imagine with the orphanage, if like someone new comes in, they have their own kind of clouded, dark past or whatever, that just this ability, you can imagine like she might have been in this situation many times before. It's subtle characterization. It's a way of like validating. It's a way of saying, I'm concerned and I care, but I'm not going to force you to tell me everything, right? Just like a way of like expressing kind of like, I'm there, right? This is a subtle character interaction. This is the supporting evidence. This is the scene he chose to put in the background as supporting evidence for the fact that the game is just like a, yap fest. The dialogue is inorganic, when in fact this dialogue is pretty organic. This is like some of the most organic dialogue that I've seen in like an anime styled game, if I'm being honest, where characters are, not only talking to each other like real people, but talking in as mature, like, emotionally intelligent people would speak to each other. So like, and that to me, if you were unable to understand this scene that you're using as supportive evidence to support your claim about all these claims you're making about the story, then to me that just like, why would I trust anything else you have to say about the story? It's not a good look, honestly. It's a game journalist outlook, if I'm being honest. And it's not a good look. Again, he's putting 60 seconds into describing the story. It's going to take me like 15 to 20 minutes probably to get through, talking about this stuff. So okay, let's look at the next line then. Let's see where we go from here. Oh look, anyway, you can take a good rest here and think about what to do next. Okay, so another emotionally well-adjusted line from Psyche, okay? Again, it's something that you can imagine she's been through this with kids in the orphanage before, and I keep reiterating, but that's subtle characterization. It's not saying, she's not sitting there and saying like, I've actually spoken to many kids in the orphanage and they come in scared and I have to be there for them, and then I kind of like try and make them feel safe in the orphanage. And then no, like you're seeing how she treats someone in that situation, right? This is the kind of character that she is, and she has the background that informs how she got to be that way, why she was maybe inspired to become like this, right? And just kind of saying like, take a good rest, think about next. It's kind of validating. It's not putting pressure on the MC, who's like probably very like scared and stuff and traumatized and is like unsure. They literally just got like, basically just like she was homeless 10 seconds ago, and then she was able to come into this house to have a roof over her head. And it's like kind of saying like, well, take a deep breath. Okay, you can relax now. You're safe here. You have a space now. Just take a deep breath and you can just take some time to think, right? You don't need to like rush into anything right now. Again, emotion, like high EQ stuff. I don't really like, I don't really get how this is supporting evidence for how they're treating us like a lobotomy patient. If you just kind of like think about what's being said with the dialogue, and yeah. And then actually the main character did say, I need to ask you something. And then they actually do bring up their problem, right? About, is there anywhere to make money? Is there a place where an outsider can find work without the restrictions of the past, right? And to me, like this even, you could even go as far as to extrapolate that the reason the MC even felt comfortable asking this question is because of Psyche's, treatment of them up to this point, right? Because they're totally new in the city. They just kind of been picked up off and then thrown by the bar owner chick. And then now it's like Psyche's like the first character that's like really going out of their way to like help them, right? To help the MC. So probably all of his behavior and experience, like the experience is like helping her to get this, like actually like fighting for her to be able to stay in this place, has probably built the relationship and the trust with the MC a little bit to where she can actually, because think about the implications of even asking this question. It's essentially saying like, I have a past that I don't want to be dug into. So by even asking that to someone, you are trusting them with that information, right? Like obviously you don't want to get outed, so you're trusting this is not a person who will out you to like the authorities or whoever, right? So that is a subtle character interaction, right? By Psyche doing all of this, and then those previous lines that she said leading into the MC actually like asking her for assistance, for help, right? And with her problem now is like getting money and then being like an outsider who can't share anything about their past, right?
And it sucks because beyond that, it doesn't seem that bad. Most of my playthrough was...
Yeah, he kind of starts talking about hype moments in Aura. I can play this as well, just for fairness.
Actually spent following the story. And while it is generic and slow-paced, it does have potential. The cutscenes...
Yeah, I don't find it to be generic. And again, another like statement that's going to take 10 minutes to talk about. But I actually really don't find this story to be like a generic anime gacha-esque story. If you really think about it, you do have kind of like an MC with like a hidden power, like almost a little of amnesia. But let's kind of break that down also. So the hidden power thing is something that they don't have full... It's kind of balanced out by the fact that they don't have full control over it, okay? And the outsider, the character the outsider, actually gives us some lore, some info on like how this is kind of a rare thing, and how the last person that actually had it ended up meeting this like grisly, brutal demise and plunged the nation into like civil war or something, right? It's balanced out by those things. It actually makes it like kind of more intriguing, a little more like, how is the MC gonna approach this or get control of this or deal with this? It's kind of how you balance out the kind of like chosen one power, right? The other generic thing that I'm assuming they're talking about is like the amnesia thing, which the amnesia point is, this is actually kind of like a common mechanism in storytelling when you're introducing a reader or a viewer to a like totally new fantastical world. It's why like in Harry Potter, when Harry is our viewpoint character, like we join him like just as he's entering the wizarding world for the first time. So as he's learning about all this stuff for the first time, we're also learning about it for the first time. It just kind of makes sense, right? As a way to like introduce all of this stuff to the reader or the viewer. It's the same thing with Wuthering Waves does the same thing. The Lord of Mysteries does the same thing with Klein, the way that Klein is like dropped in and he's having to learn about all the mystical elements of the world from the ground up, just like we are. It's the same thing in like ReZero, for example. This is like a very common thing, and it's an effective thing. It's not necessarily saying like every story should use this, and like they don't. As Endless Zone Zero, for example, I really like that story. The MC, they don't use that for the MCs, right? And they're still kind of able to introduce you to the world. So it's I don't find it to be generic, and it's not like you're coming right out the gate into like a generic power fantasy story where it's like there's this world-ending calamity that's coming. I need like the MC needs to like be the main character and like go Aura farm the bad guy to like save the world or to save the nation or the city or whatever. You literally are just, it's very personal and grounded, I think, which actually I think make the characters feel more relatable and makes the story feel more relatable, because the MC, the main character, is in the beginning in the prologue separated from their sister. So you already kind of have like the familial kind of something maybe people can relate to, right? And so the goal is getting back to their sister, okay? And then also because they're dropped into a new world where they're broke and everything and homeless, it's to make money and put a roof over their heads, which is like a pretty grounded approach to the story, you know? And as a result, like you get character interactions that are a bit more grounded. You don't have people treating the MC like there's some like, you know, god or anything like that. You don't have the MC being like overly idolized or anything. It's actually like the character dynamics feel very refreshing. Character dynamics feel like people are on equal ground, like mutual respect is kind of built up over time with characters through like actually going on the quests and then experiencing things together. And then over time they grow. So like the way the MC connects with Outsider from the beginning, where it starts off as antagonistic, gets to know them more, gets to know like his family situation, collaborates with him more. They start to find out more about each other. They have like similar values and stuff, like fundamental values that they share, and they become like more like comrades, right? That's not something that that is something that it takes honestly skill to write a story like that. It's not a generic story to me, right? So we can keep going, I guess. It's essentially just the verdict is that the story is really bad. One thing I do want to say is, look, again, stories are subjective. I want to say go play it yourself and form your own opinion, right? The thing that I find offensive about this is like a 60-second segment on the story. It's essentially just like vaguely, broadly throwing out a bunch of negative things, like how like the story is a yap fest and treats you like a lobotomy patient, and the dialogue like just doesn't work. And it's like they're just kind of vaguely throwing things out there and not using any evidence or not actually like going into depth to explain anything. And it's essentially just, again, game journalist behavior, where it's like, don't form an opinion on your own. I am here to spoon feed you the opinion, right? So I think go and play the story yourself, okay? Maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree, maybe you'll fall more on my side, maybe you'll fall more on his side. It's a story. It's meant to be subjective in a lot of ways, okay? But all I'm trying to do is offer the counter viewpoint that there are a lot of people that really enjoy the story and this kind of writing, right? I don't want it to just kind of like let it go that like this take that he has, because you can just speak so confidently and just speak so vaguely and broadly. This is game journalism 101 again. Just speak confidently, vaguely, and broadly about some topic, and you know, just hope that people assume that you're correct, right? I think people are honestly smarter than that, because people are definitely like picking up on stuff like that now with like game journalism and whatever. But like, go play the story and form your own opinion, if, you know, to see if you like it or if you don't like it. I think that if we're looking at a story like Duet Night Abyss and we're just calling it like a yap fest, and I think MTash also said the same thing. If that's what we're doing, like, bro, I just think maybe we need to read more books. Like, I think we just need to heal as a society. What's the statistic? Like, the average person's attention span has fallen by over a minute because of like short form content brain rot or something. I mean, listen, I'm not special. It's happened to me too. Okay, guys, like it happens to me too. But like, maybe we just need to heal as a society, because I have the exact opposite interpretation of this story. I don't find it to be a yap fest. I don't know, like, you know, maybe there might be sections that could be more concise or something, but generally I think it's well written, well told, you know? Maybe we just need to read more books to heal as a society. I don't know. I don't really know, but I would not classify this as like a yap fest story by any means. Okay, we're gonna circle back to the first pillar, because there's two pillars that he's using to declare the story to be bad, and again, for the game to be a failure because of, you know, partly because the story is bad, right? So let's look at the first point that he makes.
During the story, the NPCs have the most awkward animations I've seen in my life. Their facial expressions don't budge an inch, and every time they talk, their mouths look like dying fish. Obviously, the animation added here is to make it seem like they put more effort into it, but if you just did nothing here instead, it would somehow feel like a better product. It is so unbelievably half-assed. I'm kind of insulted someone thought that this would pass for acceptable.
Okay, so again, one of the two pillars we're using to declare the story to be terrible is NPC facial expressions, right? Facial animations, right? Look, it's obvious that a game like Wuthering Waves has better facial animations, right? But it's not like the facial expressions in Wuthering Waves is mind-blowing in compared to like other gaming titles, is it? Right? Like, does that mean that I'm gonna say that WUA has a terrible story because of the facial expressions not being like the best in gaming? Again, this is like another game journalist take where it's like, if the graphics and such, and the graphics and the animations are not some of the greatest like in modern gaming, then like it's not the newest, sleekest, sickest new graphics, then it's just terrible, right? I mean, I think real like, you know, people who enjoy story and real like gamers like can look past like bad graphics, and regardless, because the thing is like there are important things to a story. There are important things to a story beyond just the facial expressions. Okay, there's the overall plot, the themes, characterization, character dynamics, things like dialogue, emotional impact of the story, all of these things are vastly more important than just, the NPC character dynamics. And by the way, look at Psyche right here, right?
So alien. Every character over-explains every single detail and interaction in their life.
Look at Psyche. Psyche has dramatically better, mouth movement, facial expressions, right, than the case with the NPCs, which shows that this is probably something that came down to a resource issue, and it's likely something that will be improved on in the future. Honestly, it's likely something that will be improved on in the future. And again, regardless, are we gonna act like games like, I don't know, like Fate Grand Order don't exist, where it's just like the story is just like a non-voice acted 2D slideshow, and yet people, including myself, can really enjoy that story that is told there because it's about the writing? Again, just game journalists add take to me, to use that as one of two pillars to declare the story to be awful. Like, those important parts of the story that I mentioned are things that Duet Night Abyss does well, in my opinion, okay? It's things that, and I'm talking to a lot of people and they like it too, but again, subjective. Some people may like it, some people may don't. Form an opinion yourself, right? Do the story and form an opinion yourself. This is just kind of like an overly simplistic criteria to like judge the story on, right? It's just, I really can't take it that seriously, Because in the 60 seconds that we've devoted to basically declaring that the story is bad, right? Except for hype moments and aura, like, dude, there's more to it than that, okay? We basically haven't given that really any examples. We haven't like dug into the story. We haven't dug into any of this stuff. Kind of like vaguely, broadly making these claims, and not, and it's also like even disingenuous. I mean, you can spend longer than 60 seconds, right? Like if you're trying to be more genuine, you would actually, I mean, you show proof on the very next slide, but of course you don't mention it that, while the NPC facial expressions are a little less, the actual characters are, which shows that the devs can do it, right? And the devs can even improve on this. The devs can improve on the NPCs. It's like just like the story is so good. The music is so good. The music, I mean, when music quality is high, to me that's like an indicator of like how much the devs put like care and thought into the story and passion into it, because you don't make these like amazing scores and OSTs for a game whose like story you don't care about, right? You just don't. You wouldn't commission that stuff. You wouldn't like think about how that stuff fits into the story if you just like didn't care about the story, right? Because that all costs a lot. And I remember one of the like something Wuthering Waves has massively improved on to the point where they're one of the best is their musical scores. But in 1.0 of Wuthering Waves, that was one of the biggest points of criticism for them too, was that the music like wasn't that great. Like things like this, they can be improved on. They literally can be improved on. But again, declaring the death of the game off of that, quite game journalist ad behavior. I guess if it doesn't have the newest, sleekest graphics, if I can't count every single hair on the NPC's chin, and see like the saliva moving inside their mouth, and see like, and guess the exact history of their like dental, oral surgical procedures, and like whether they had braces or not, and to like count their eyelashes, and to see like the, light reflect in their eyes as they talk. I guess if I can't see that stuff, then I guess it's just a bad game and a bad story. I don't know, man. 7 out of 10, I guess. I don't know, man. Oh, well, thanks again for watching. If you did make it this far, like, comment, subscribe, come to the live stream. We're having discussions. I really do love discussing this stuff. So like trying to get like good civil conversation going on in the comments. Okay. Well, anyway, okay, I'm going to end the video now, but okay. Thanks a lot. Stay safe out there. Take care. Hopefully see you next time. All right. Okay. I'm actually going to end it now. Okay. Bye-bye now.